Hello, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to the final couple days of Juggernaut July and the transition into Almighty August. Only this week, I don't think it's feeling almighty. In fact, you probably are feeling lost and adrift. And Sensei says it's time to re-engineer your willpower. From my smartphone to yours, keep streaming for your weekly Namaste Today. Hello and welcome to Namaste Today. I'm Christopher Witecki, your spiritual life coach, and what I call the Sensei to serious joy. So grateful to have you back, my friend. Welcome back. Namaste. Well, we're in a funky part of the year. This entire year, in my opinion, has been about breaking away from the old, which came to a climax last Friday when we had a lunar eclipse. That was a conscious turning point, I think, for us to turn our backs to an old era. And this week, things very slowly begin to move forward. And I'm going to talk about this week about how slowness is actually how spirit makes the most profound changes in our life. So despite how slow things appear, realize you are making very important changes that will absolutely affect the outcome. In fact, I believe right now the Soul Collective is re-engineering their willpower. In other words, what your heart and emotion want to go after. So in this week's show, we'll talk about the upcoming week and the Soul Collective and the fact that 6 planets are retrograde, creating this molasses sort of feel. Then in your tea time, I'm going to drill down for all 12 signs and talk about what their re-engineering means for them. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Monday, July 30th to Friday, August 3rd, 2018. Looking at your 5-day moodcast, the week starts off at a crawl and slowly builds up. Let's drill down. On Monday, it's cloudy, overcast, and spiritual. Step 7 rules the day, and the moon in Pisces calls toward spiritual guidance. On Tuesday, it's sunny and clear. You'll finally be able to make some preliminary decisions, and Jupiter at step 14 says it's time to think through your boundaries. On Wednesday, it's sunny and strong. This is probably the only day business will move forward, and the moon in Aries pushes you to get off the couch. On Thursday, it's sunny and growing. Step 10 rules the day, and you are now manifesting your heart's intention. And the moon in Taurus makes it lazy and summery. And then lastly, on Friday, it's sunny and dynamic. Step 11 rules the day, bringing your heart and life into parallel. Well, looking at the week ahead, I gotta tell you, we have a lot of retrograde planets. Things are moving really slow. But I do believe the universe has an intention. It's gonna be to re-engineer your willpower. Taking a sneak peek at this upcoming week, in my opinion, this week, the Soul Collective is re-engineering willpower. And you may wonder, what does that mean? Well, it means just what it says. You know, willpower is a kind of a complicated consciousness. I call it a master consciousness, first of all, willpower. That's when we're at a point as a soul where we can harness the energy within us and we can direct it towards an outcome. And as I look at all the planets and I look at the transitions going on, up until now in 2018, it has all been about clearing. We've been clearing basically our emotional baggage. Our emotional baggage is all of our wounds, our ego resentments, our anger, any kind of emotions that were repressed, any sort of shadow in our soul. The universe called in the first 6 months of this year, let it go. Just let it go. It doesn't matter. It does not even count towards your final grade. You know what I mean? Like, it has nothing to do with where you're going. It was just your preparation. And I would say that the clearing of this was complete last Friday with the lunar eclipse that we had in Aquarius. And I found, as expected, that lunar eclipse to be very, very delicate. And that's been my experience doing this for 20 years, is that when spirit has a huge impact on humanity, it's usually a very, very quiet moment. Because I think in the most quiet moments, you are left with only the energy of yourself. You're not, rippling off of the world. You're not bouncing off of politics. You're not freaking out from cosmic truths. You're just kind of left with yourself. And I've noticed those are the moments when fate changes. So this week, as we enter this week, this is the first week after the lunar eclipse. The sun is building in Leo. And what that means is after the lunar eclipse, which was a detachment, a final goodbye to an old life, to an old attachment, maybe to old ego chases. And this could apply anywhere in your life. Like you're tired of climbing in your corporate ladder, or you're tired of this, or you're tired of that, or, letting go of all sorts of races that you may have been involved in for some time as well, like in your physical life. And those, I'm sure, all represent a shift of your spiritual maturing. It's because your soul is now maturing in the sense of the quality of the life you want to live and the quality of the moment you want to live. And with that quality in mind, you're probably letting go of these things. This week, it's now a gentle turn to what we strive to next. And in my opinion, that boils down to reinventing our willpower. I believe our willpower comes down to three things. I think it is our ego. So our ego just wants to because, and that's okay. I think that's a healthy thing when it's well applied. Like it's a healthy thing for the ego to want to get to Mars. It's healthy for the ego wanting to solve world starvation. It's healthy for the ego wanting to clean the air. Okay, so I think we have to distinguish that there are healthy ego motives, but they cannot be ego motives alone. The other aspect I think that is important in willpower is our heart. And that's the sun in Leo right now. The sun in Leo is saying, okay, let's re-examine what our heart really wants, what is worth going for. The Mars retrograde, which is going on at the same time, is saying to us, let's re-examine what our ego chases after. And then lastly, I think the third component of willpower is emotion, how much passion you have behind it. And we're not working strictly on the emotion now. In fact, we just did that for almost 6 to 8 weeks, clearing out our emotional field, getting rid of all the emotional garbage and trash in our consciousness so we could get excited about new things, so we can invest our feelings into new endeavors. So I think this week is going to feel incredibly slow. Incredibly slow. And I predicted this early on in the year. It's because, like I said in the beginning of this transit, I think that human beings do not make wise choices when life is moving fast, and it appears that God universe always slows things down very much when we are making very important life decisions. So we have a lot of time to meditate on it without interference. And a lot of people say, I don't see God intervening. I do. When I see these little breaks built into astrology for humans to catch up, that's God intervening. It didn't have to be that way. We could have rushed to the next chapter. Now, adding to the slowness, we have 6 planets retrograde right now, 6. And that means that 6 states of our own awareness, our human awareness, 6 states of our awareness are retrograded, which means turning inward. That means we have 12 states of awareness. Literally 50% of us is offline. That's part of the slowness. That's part of the looking inward. That's part of the taking the time with the smallest, simplest things right now. They are Mercury, Mars, so our mind, our ego, our control mechanism, Saturn, our healing capacity, Chiron, our intuition, and our boundary construction, all retrograde. Okay? So what this means is we very much, although your mind may think it has to go somewhere to think about the next chapter, your feelings may feel like you're unproductive. You are being very productive because you are steering into your deeper consciousness and getting in touch with yourself. And this is a blessed moment. So all this retrograde energy allows you to get in touch with yourself. There's 2 really primary forces that are moving forward, 3 this week. And those are, I think, 2 that are very important to willpower. One force moving forward is Jupiter. Jupiter is direct in Scorpio. And that means that although we are retrograded and thinking about all these things in our life and contemplating, we are moving forward with the construction of appropriate boundaries. Okay, so when you say yes to someone, when you say no to someone, when you say yes to something, when you say no to something, all of this counts. All of this is creating the truth of your future. Can you undo it later? Absolutely, but it's a pain in the ass, right? Like no one wants to have to pull up the railroad tracks and do it again. So be conscious of your yes and no's. You're setting policy in your life with these yes and no's right now. And remember that, today's no's usually bring tomorrow's yeses. So, if there's no rush at this time and there's no need to move forward with your story unless you're absolutely certain. And that's what the universe is giving us time for this certainty. So boundaries are moving forward. The other thing moving forward this week, of course, is the sun. The sun is in Leo. So as we move through this week, we are basically getting in touch with our heart, getting in touch with what our heart wants. And, depending on how skilled you are at being connected to your heart determines how well you do this. But, some people need to flip through magazines to be inspired. Some people need to flip through TV channels to be inspired. Some people need to read a book. So it's a good time to inspire your heart this week. You can go to the old goodies, the things you always love. So if you always love alien conspiracy, go there. But you want to stimulate your heart with something that you find fun or enjoyable just to bring that heartfelt energy into this discussion because it's part of the re-engineering of your willpower, in my opinion. And then the moon, our emotions, what we go through in a week is very much how I would say we describe the week. So the week begins with us with the moon in Pisces. So Monday and Tuesday, we're very like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, do I want to go get breakfast? Do I want to stay in bed? And that's okay. What's happening is deep spiritual truths are coming to the surface. So on Monday and Tuesday, you may have just a very quiet realization that you're into dolphins. Or you may have a very quiet realization that you want to go visit grandma. And as quiet as it is, it may be profound because it may lead to something. So Monday is really about, intuiting things. Don't expect to get a lot of business done. Tuesday, you're going to have the wherewithal to make decisions, but you may not have the information you want to make decisions. The moon is also in Pisces, so we're just kind of thinking in very spiritual terms and feeling in spiritual terms. Wednesday, the moon moves into Aries. And what's interesting about this is there's an emotional maturing that happens on Wednesday because the moon crosses Chiron. So as the moon crosses Chiron, your emotions will be made up for now about something, which is good. Because in this like drifting of consciousness and, of all these retrogrades, to know something, even if it's the ice cream you want to eat tonight, like I know what it is, it's peppermint patty, just to know that is going to feel good. So Wednesday's a little bit of a turning point where we start to know and we mature. We probably grew up about something. So the beginning of the week is really, you'll find that your heart and your feelings are growing up about something, maybe growing up about the possibility that they can have what they want and that they can swim towards what they want or that they can make their own choices. We're kind of drifting. And then Thursday and Friday, I think we have some solidarity of something we want, but it's just a minor little solidarity. You know what I mean? Like, again, we know we want a piece. So by Friday, we start to be ready to start creating a piece of something. And what's interesting is the moon crosses Uranus at the end of the week on Saturday as the moon moves into Taurus. And that will also be an emotional maturing at the same time. Uranus is at step 2. And that emotional maturing is, I think I can make this happen. All right. So this week is literally just kind of moving through this kind of conscious amoeba energy where you are slowly trying to guide towards your heart. Your ego is totally offline because Mars is retrograde. Your ego is totally trying to decide what to do next. And we're just kind of letting our heart, creativity, love, joyful things stimulate us to kind of find our way through these clouded woods. And in my opinion, all of this is basically rebuilding or re-engineering your willpower. Now, I've broken down the willpower engineering to a couple of terms, and that's going to be the topic of this week's tea time. So go steep yourself some tea, and let's have our weekly tea time. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. This week's tea time topic is re-engineering willpower. And I know that was the Soul Collective topic, but that's because we're getting really deep on this one, folks. The universe is really throwing a lot of spiritual investment into people following their hearts. That's really what the big picture of the shift is. And I calculate this from the North Node. The North Node is in Leo. And as of the lunar eclipse, the North Node was at step 5 Leo. So we're in the last 5 degrees now of Leo. And these are the most personal degrees of Leo. Those first states of awareness, those first 5 steps, are really the conscious awareness of how an individual loves themselves or does not love themselves. And quite often, this is stimulated by our childhood. We may be born loving ourselves from a past life awareness of knowing that we're great, and then we may be completely kind of spit on and interjected and interfered with, making us feel like, oh, maybe we shouldn't love ourselves the way we think we should love ourselves. So all of us kind of condition this: do I love myself? Do I not love myself? Do I deserve love? Do I not deserve love? Who am I to deserve love? Right? And religion comes into this and everything else. And the truth is, how much you love yourself is the quality of your power. Now, loving yourself is how we come into our power. Some people do bad things with their power. That has nothing to do with loving themselves, though. Okay? That has to do with them being egomaniacal or half insane or emotionally hurt. Those are other states of awareness. They have nothing to do with how much they love themselves. So you need to know, if you're sitting on the fence about whether or not you're love worthy, hey, bad guys love themselves and good guys love themselves. Basically, anyone in their power loves themselves. What you do with that love is a measure of your character, is a measure of your karma, etc. But everyone deserves the love, right? Everyone deserves to win that lottery. So this is the first time since 1998 to 2000, just after 2000, when the last time the North Node was in Leo. And I liken that to the whole new millennium craze. Everyone was going to party like it's 1999. We're all excited and our hearts are kind of feeling young and there's opportunities and we're going to the 2000s. And it was just kind of, I think, much more innocent than this particular North Node. Now that the North Node's returned to Leo here in 2018, our hearts are being asked once again, hey, what does your heart really dream about? And hey, how much do you love yourself anyways? Are you willing to go the distance if your heart wants something? And that's really the question of this week. Are you willing to go the distance for your heart? And to me, re-engineering willpower comes down to releasing the South Node in Aquarius. We're going to detach from things we were once chasing after, which I really think the lunar eclipse on Friday was the turning point of that letting go. And the re-engineering is, okay, what heartfelt intention do we turn to? And not only what heartfelt intention do we turn to, but what sort of love of ourself is necessary to finance that dream? And that to me is the re-engineering of our willpower. We're re-engineering it from avoidance of karma. We're re-engineering it from avoidance of pain. We're re-engineering it from from fear of fight or flight or death or survival. And we're re-engineering it towards joy. This re-engineering of your heart and your own motives is literally the Earth's re-engineering toward enlightenment. And I want you to know that if you are conscious and awake right now, and you are deciding to go for a heartfelt heaven, a heartfelt joy, and make your priorities in life joy, you are one of the pioneering souls on Earth right now that is actually pushing Earth in this direction. One of the things that my research has shown me, reading all sorts of texts from angels and different people channeling and stuff like that, is that the reason why the angels just haven't made the earth go into the higher vibration is because according to the laws and rules of the universe, souls have to come down to earth and bring it to the next level. It can't be brought from the outside. It has to be taken to a higher vibration from the inside of the matrix, the inside of the incarnation. So many of us have parachuted down here to help expand the light, and I believe this week, as slow and boring as it is really the turn towards enlightenment for those who are ready. And even if you're not ready, I think it's worth a try, okay, to turn the ship. And we'll talk later about how our sphere of influence makes a difference. The other action that's happening this week is, it's very invisible, it's step 0, it's Jupiter in Scorpio. You are laying down bricks for your foundation this week. You're laying down like where the walls are, what the rules are, what you will open up to or what you won't open up to. And that's the real depth of this, is what will your heart open to or not open to. We certainly don't want to be not opening to something because it hurt us in the past. If you are refraining from opening from something because it hurt you from the past, you haven't healed the past. You're bringing rules from the past into the present. That's a no-no. You shouldn't have to worry about issues from the past if you have matured and understood how not to manifest them. But Jupiter moving direct means that we are sculpting boundaries, and these boundaries are important, and they're important because they allow us to build the love force in our life because we feel safe. So even though things are very drifty this week, what's solid is the light you are building in your heart. That is solid. You're going to take that to the bank all the way through August, all the way through Almighty August. And that's why we call it Almighty, because we're going to find an almighty calling in our heart this month. But the flame you are building, even the tiniest flame, it could be for the smallest, simplest thing, that is actually valid. And the other thing that's valid is all the boundaries and shelter you give that flame, you give that heart, to keep the outer world from interfering with it, and to keep your old issues and your old you from interfering with it. So I'm going to walk through all 12 signs, and I'm going to talk about what they are attaching to and what they are detaching from. So basically the line of the North and South Node currently in Leo and Aquarius. And then I'm also going to remind you of where there are boundary changes necessary for your sign, represented by Jupiter direct in Scorpio. Jupiter this week moves from step 13 to step 14, and that means that we move from innovation of boundaries to our first real plan of what the boundaries will be. So we make a pretty pronounced step this week in creating our boundary structure, the knots, making room for the yeses, okay? And as always, I'll put up on the side here a graphic that shows you what sign I am talking about, and I'd recommend listening to your sun sign and rising sign, since people are changing profoundly. Aries. Arieses are literally, as the purebreds of the zodiac, attaching to a new heartfelt love. So their heart is falling in love with something. It may be with someone, but it should be with themselves. It should be with an aspect of yourself, like you're falling in love with your inner artist, or you're falling in love with your creative side, or you're falling in love with your childlike spirit. But you are falling in love. Your flame is falling in love with some aspect of being you. This means you detach from old social belonging. So Arieses are going to float away from neighborhoods or groups or associations or clubs or things that they don't really kind of feel a kinship to anymore. And Arieses are re-architecting their boundaries with the world. So they're going to be closing down to some people, opening up to other people. Closing down to some situations, opening up to other situations. Applying for some things, no longer chasing after other things. So you're going to see Arieses' valves opening and closing this week as they start to navigate that flame towards what their heart desires. Taurus. Tauruses are attaching to a new way of feeling every day. And I know that sounds generic, but for a Taurus, billions of things go into creating that feeling. So we know the richness of a feeling. So Tauruses are creating their new honey butter. They're creating the new feeling of joy, the new feeling that they're going for every day. That feeling of joy is what they're going to build their factory on. That's going to build their business on, build everything on, or build their new phases on, is on this new kind of honey love vibration at the core. This could also be that they're pointing towards new family ambitions. Tauruses are stepping away from career obligation, stepping away from legacy obligation. Don't worry, they're going to step towards one after this is done, but they have to be clear on what's really important to them and where the honey butter is in life. The boundary changes for Tauruses will be between them and other people. So boundaries are going to be changing and altering relationships. If you're in a relationship with a Taurus, don't be surprised if they ease off on how much time they give or they open up to more time. They're adjusting how much time they invest into others right now in other situations. Again, trying to test the temperature of that honey butter to make sure life is feeling golden, okay? Gemini. Gemini are moving towards positive thoughts and detaching from second guessing and lack of belief in themselves. So they're moving away from this period of not knowing, not believing, not understanding, all of that. And moving now towards loving theories and loving thoughts that inspire their mind and inspire creativity. For them to do this, they have to change their boundaries in day-to-day life. In some cases, they need to wake up in the moment. In some cases, they need to tune out in the moment. So they're going to open up and tune out of different things in their work life, start and stop things in their daily routine, start and stop things with their diet, start and stop things with their health regimen, and that's where the boundary changes are moving forward so that they can be more inspired to have positive thinking day to day. Cancers. Cancers are moving towards more abundance. They're moving towards making more children, more love, more money, more house, more. So cancers are building the nest egg. That means they need to let go and detach from trust issues or issues around intimacy or issues around being able to trust themselves. So they move away from the unclear boundaries and the undefined boundaries and the old values that probably sacrificed their worth and focus on creating their own butter, creating their own love and their golden light. Their boundary changes must be with love. So for this to happen, cancers need to love themselves more, love others second. You will get to the loving others, but you have to start calling in and making sure that your own self-love, that your heart gets what it wants, that you get your piece of the birthday cake, that whole sort of thing. You've got to make it out. Because you're a caring and nurturing person, you have to get really strong about the boundaries of how much care and how much giving you give. You have to have the giving before anyone else. Leos. Happy birthday to the Leos. They are now focusing on a new expression of themselves. So Leos are in a redefinition period. You could say that the performers are backstage in a wardrobe change. So Leos are changing what they look like, changing how they express themselves, changing their light, and they're getting a lot of investment from the universe. We have a solar eclipse on August 11th, which is going to kind of boomerang this forward. So Leos are moving forward to a new expression of themselves. That means they're letting go of an old way of treating themselves. They're letting go of an old way of letting the world treat them. They're letting go of old relationship values in order to be this new person that they want to be. So Leos may be pulling out of relationships in lots of places. For them to get there, they have to be very clear on their emotional boundaries. So Leos must be very clear about when to go to bed, when to wake up, how much of every little thing they need, what they need to open up to or close down to. Basically, they need to be their own mama, and they need to figure out and engineer their emotional plumbing so that they can create this new expression of themselves. And they must shut out things that are emotionally toxic. They must embrace things that are emotionally beneficial. So there's boundary changes going on in that direction. Virgo. Virgo is building a new faith in life and a new faith in themselves. And that requires that they let go of an old way of living. So Virgos have to let go of a work style or a work group or daily torture of themselves or putting themselves off until after they've worked 18 hours or whatever their regimen is. They have to let go of that. They have to embrace what they love and what they have faith in. So they're making a real shift of faith in this quiet moment. What they need to change in order to get there are the boundaries of their thoughts. So your thinking can decay your ability to create this faith. Your thinking can rain on your parade. It's up for you to embrace the positive thoughts and cut your losses on the negative thoughts and shift this thinking. That's where the real power point of control is towards the faith, is managing the thoughts, Virgo. Libras. Libras are moving towards a new social calling. So Libras feel a new calling in the world. They feel a new day on the horizon for where they belong in the world. This is a new relationship, a new neighborhood, a new group of friends, a new sphere of influence, anything and all of the above. They must let go of the old love stories and the old heartbreaks in order to find their new place in the world. So they must detach from heartbreaks, detach from old love stories. And the boundary structure that needs to change for Libra has to do with values. So you have to be very clear about protecting the things in life that you value and let go of the things you don't care about. Give it away to, goodwill. Get rid of the things you don't value, embrace the things you do value, and stick true to the things that you value. Those are qualities, those aren't just material things. Scorpio. Scorpio are creating a new legacy and a new future for themselves. So they are moving towards a new dawn, literally, a whole new story, which is good for them. To be able to pull that off, they have to turn their back on old hurt feelings, on old emotions, and old childhood wounds. So they must move away from childhood situations once and for all, so they are completely free to float above that horizon. For this to happen, they have to make boundary changes with how they behave. And I think for a lot of Scorpios, that behavior comes down to when you get involved or not. So I think Scorpios feel like it's their job to communicate boundaries and to communicate lines and stuff like that. But the universe is saying, you know what, just worry about behavior that suits you, that improves your life. You are not on police duty right now, Scorpio. You are to be taking care of yourself. Use that boundary mechanism to cut away from falling into old emotional patterns, to not allow yourself to react or respond to a trigger, to not let someone else piss you off. That's where your strength of boundaries needs to be, so you can focus on your light and your fire. Where you're going, they will need police officers just like you, but you're in a transition right now. If people don't get it now, it's their loss. Sagittariuses. Sages are now investing in a new belief in themselves. So this is huge because Sages are, ironically, because they're the believers of the zodiac, they're the least likely to believe. So for them to believe something is a good thing. They're going to be believing in something new. Their heart will be moving into a new direction, a new theory, a new quantum idea. And that means they must turn their back on old thinking, old repetitive thinking, old fearful thinking, old circular thinking, old mental illness. Anything with the mind, turn your back on, whitewash it. It's time to go for that belief and write new thoughts. Now, for this to happen, you have to be very clear on your boundaries with your faith. If you've already decided you have faith in something, you can't pick it apart. If you've already decided you're over a fear, you can't go back to it. You have to be very resolute about not letting yourself go into that old dark space anymore. You've seen it before. There's nothing new there. And embracing the light, embracing what inspires you. Capricorn. Capricorns are now moving into a new trust in themselves, and that's basically it. Sounds simple, right? It's huge. So you're moving into trusting your heart and trusting what your heart is telling you. That means you move away from being attached to old values of definitions of value, which would be money, stocks, corporations, all these old games of monopoly games of how we make money. You have to let go of that being your core value system. Your value system has to be love and trust and in these other states. So you're redefining what you love and what you protect in life and letting go of the old things you loved and protected in life. Now, in order for this to happen, you have to be very clear on your boundaries when it comes to the world. So there are times when you get involved and there are times you don't get involved. If it is involved with your old values, you don't get involved. If it involves your new values, you do get involved. So Capricorns are withdrawing from power structures in the world because they are basically re-architecting their definition of value and power. Aquarius. Aquariuses are investing now in new relations policy. That's a way of relating to themselves and relating to others. So Aquariuses are being pushed towards new relationships, basically. New relationships based on love, new relationships that feed them love. Now, for them to do this, they have to let go of old behaviors and old habits. Particularly, Aquariuses tend to want to be alone all the time and want to shut down and want to have their freedom. And these types of qualities, some of them have to be hampered with the Mars retrograde so that they can go and move forward and build new loving relationships and loving strategic alliances in the world as well. For them to pull this off, they have to be very clear about their boundaries around future decisions. All their decisions must have and keep in mind the needs of their loving relationships. All of their career and legacy decisions must embrace their partnerships and what they have decided to agree to. And they must cut out of their life the things that take them away from their relationship priorities. So their career legacy is going to sculpt according to their love relationships. Pisces. Pisces are investing in a new daily life. So Pisces are getting a whole new Earth 2.0 if they do it right. And they're meant to invest in a loving lifestyle, a lifestyle they enjoy, a health they enjoy, to be in the light moment to moment. For them to do that, they have to turn their back on old karma, old fears, old pitfalls, old self-sabotage, all the old stuff. It will not be anything that a Pisces is not already fully aware of. So it's about cutting what you are fully aware of as your old collateral spiritual damage and moving towards a lifestyle of daily love. Now, for this to happen, Pisces must be resolute about their beliefs. One of the ways that Pisces get stuck where they are is they open up and decide, well, maybe I don't believe that. Maybe I believe this. Maybe I believe that. And they stay in this constant philosophical mode, which keeps them from ever being responsible for anything. So it's very important that you are very true to what you believe and what you don't believe, and stick to what you believe. And what has not worked and what has not shown promise, let go of and disregard. Being very clear on your convictions allows you to create this new lifestyle of love and turn your back on the karma. So I think this is going to be everyone basically re-engineering their willpower, and they're re-engineering it basically by the nodes. They're pointing their heart towards what is true joy. They're letting go of what is not joy, and we are changing our boundaries to protect these things and also cut away the things we are no longer interested in. I think it'll be a slow week, but I think it'll be a powerful one. And with that, I bring you some gratitude. I'd like to end my show now with a little gratitude. And today's gratitude goes out to everyone who has ever referred me to someone. And you may go, well, of course. No, I don't think you understand. I ask everyone who I get a personal reading with, whenever I interact with someone, I ask, how did you find me? And I gotta tell you, probably 90% of the time, they'll tell me that a friend, a trusted friend, someone that knows them very well, someone that they listen to, introduced me to them. And they're usually very grateful. And I just want to say thank you to those people who have referred me. I think it's kind of the way God does her work. And at this moment, at this time, we're in a very powerful moment, in my opinion, for human beings to change their fate. So I would encourage anyone at this point, if you know someone who just needs to open up to what their potential is, to what their heart is, please pass on Namaste today. I hope to help as many people as I can. We need to awaken in the light. We need to create a cord of love and light together, and I think that's what this process is. Now, I also want to invite you to my personal Sensei service. This is the best time to join because you are going through a portal, my friend. You are transforming your willpower. There's never a better time than now to have something like my service supporting you with understanding who you are, soul biography, explaining your goal story, explaining your A story and B story. I had the Megascope monthly reports coming out this week where I give you the full report for how August will go for all 12 signs. And we're in the midst of a 40-day self-love exercise, which, by the way, you can begin any point through the Leo season and you'll still be aligned with the world. So if you are interested in joining our little team of light, our little Thrive Tribe, as I like to call us, we are a tribe of thrivers, visit us at SeriousJoy.com. And then, if you want to just rub elbows on Facebook, I do think it's worth for us to have some connection together. Come to our Facebook club at namastetoday.club. All right, friend, it's going to be a lazy summer week, but remember what's important to your heart. Remember that little flame of joy. If you can just create a little candle of joy and protect that candle of joy to the end of the week, you have done your soul's service. I'll see you next week for the solar eclipse in Leo. Remember, I love you. Live, love, be.